Hey there, guys. Today we're going to work on how to build a mix for live streaming of contemporary worship. So the way that we do things is we have multi-tracks coming in from our consoles, both from our main service and from our traditional service, because we also live stream our traditional service and we record everything. So the thing is, while the traditional service is going in our chapel, the worship band is rehearsing in the family room, and that is being recorded. So what that does is, once the traditional service is over, the live stream has stopped, you can actually stop recording, and you can go back here and play back the worship band's rehearsal and go ahead and build your mix before the next service, before the contemporary service actually starts. So the stream for the traditional service has ended. We've stopped our recording. We're going to come back in Cakewalk here, and we're going to play back through some of these songs, and we're going to build a mix that we can at least start from as we are going through the next service. So we've stopped recording. First thing we want to do is we want to turn off the recording and also turn off the echo from the traditional service. And even if you just want to make sure our channels from the traditional service, which are on the input too, they're all turned down, so we wouldn't hear them anyway. But if you wanted to, you could mute this traditional service folder there, and that'll go ahead and mute all those tracks. Let's go back to our custom layer, which, as you know, is holding down input 2 and output at the same time. And now we have our layout for the traditional service. So as we play back these tracks, they will play through these channels, and we can build our mix. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the plugins and stuff that we have set up on these channels right now. They are how we like them. This is just going to be about building your fader mix for the live stream. So let's reset everything to 0. And we're going to find something here where everyone is singing, all the instruments are playing. Something that's going to allow us to completely build our mix up from scratch. So let's go about here, because this looks like everything is going on. Or actually, let's try about here, because it looks like the volume is more normal. These are our vocal tracks. That's the lead vocal track right there. So we can start from there. We'll go back to where we can see the drums come in. You can see the audio waveforms indicate where sound happens. So you can click around there to get to a spot with good sound from everybody. All right, so we're going to start playing back here. And here's always mix with headphones. Don't mix from what you hear coming out of the TV. Please mix with the headphones, because this is going to give you the best mix, and then that'll make sure that whatever comes out of the TV sounds good. But TVs are not the only things people are listening on. People are also listening on headphones and other devices. So the best thing is get a good mix here, and it'll sound good on everything. So I'm going to put my headphones on here, and I'm going to start playing back. Okay. Now, the first thing you're hearing here is the ambient mics. Whoops. Okay. We got a fader here that's janky, so even though it was turned down here, it was still up, so sorry about that. All right, so this is our ambient mic. That's the house sound. We're not going to mix that in actually, yeah, let's go ahead and keep it up. Let's do it at like a -10, and then we can add more if we want to. But that's just to increase like the live feel of the sound, as well as to be able to hear when the congregation is singing along. When they get louder, you can hear it. So yeah, we'll go ahead and start from there. We can hear the ambient mics. Let's start by adding in drums. This is the first thing. And what I like to do is I like to put it at 0, because that gives us the bass line to mix everything else to. The drums are the most important thing. They drive everything else. And so we want to mix to the drums. So going from the drums, now we're going to mix in the bass, and we want it to be well balanced. So we want the bass to be loud enough to hear well and to sound good and balanced with the drums, but not too loud, because if it's too loud, it'll overpower them. And I'm sorry if I'm talking louder, but I'm wearing headphones, so you naturally talk louder when you wear headphones. So that's about good, balance with the bass and drums there. Now let's bring up our acoustic guitar one a little bit. Now this is not a main driving instrument of the song, so we want to be able to hear it, but we don't want it to overpower anything. So keep it kind of in the background. And this is the first acoustic guitar, so we want to have it panned more to the left, maybe about 50 or 55. Okay, let's do the same thing for the acoustic guitar too, and we want it to be about equal volume so that we get a nice stereo effect of acoustic guitars. So in the same thing, we want to make sure that this is panned to the right so that we get a nice balance between the two. Okay. And the song is about to end, so let's start this section over again. This is a really good piece of sound here to mix from, so let's start that again. Let's get to the big part. Okay, let's bring up our left electric guitar. And again, we just want it to be in balance with everything. And now let's go with our right guitar, stage right. Okay, we're hearing some lead lines here, so we want to make sure that these lead lines are heard pretty clearly. And again, just in general, I have these panned to the left and to the right. Okay, we can hear it good there, but it's not overpowering. Let's try our keys, our piano. Okay, you can start to hear it there. And again, we don't want it to way overpower everything, that's too much. We want it to be in balance, where you hear it well, but it doesn't overpower. Okay, let's hit that again. And this time we're gonna mix in our the backtracks, which is like pads and loops and percussion and things like that, instruments that we don't have on the stage. They're coming from the Ableton backtrack. So start bringing that in. And kind of one strategy you can use to build your mix is to bring in something to purposely make it too loud, and then bring it back until it's in balance with everything else. So like, let's try it that way. So we're gonna turn this way up, and then we're gonna bring it back. And you can hear the shaker and maybe a tambourine. You want those to be in balance with the drums. So we're gonna bring those back until you can kind of just hear them. Okay. All right, so now we have our band mixed pretty well. Let's listen to it a little bit. So you can see, you can hear the drums clearly over everything that's driving the song. And then you hear your bass giving it that tonal foundation. And then you can hear the guitars and the keys. Let's bring back the keys a little bit, they're a little loud. But all your other instruments are in balance with each other. Okay. So now we're going to start adding in vocals, and what you want is you want your lead vocal to be loud enough so that you can understand what they're saying, but you don't want them to be so loud that they're completely overpowering the band to where you can't really hear those band instruments anymore. That's when it's too loud. So we can use that same strategy. We can bring it up to where it is too loud, and then we'll bring it back down some. So let's try that. Okay, that's too loud. So let's start bringing it back. So maybe about there. We can hear now. You can hear them very clearly. Maybe back a little bit. So you can see you're kind of mixing to make it sound like a CD or a live CD recording. And so the vocal is now clearly audible. You can understand what he's saying, but he's not overpowering anything. Okay, so now we're going to look at the backup vocals. They are singing harmonies or maybe a little bit of unison kind of stuff. We want to be able to hear them, but we just want them in the background. We don't necessarily need to be able to hear them super clearly, because all we're trying to get is the tone that's going to complement the melody. We just want to hear that harmony. So let's see if we can bring it back. About there's good.
Broken every chain, there's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah.
Okay, so now we have a good mix of backup vocals. We can hear those harmonies, but they're not overpowering everything. So now let's listen a little bit to our whole mix and see if everything sounds in balance. Okay, it's sounding really good. And now I want to see if I can mix in some more of the ambient mics in the room so that we can get a little more of that live feel and hopefully be able to hear some of the people singing. Okay, so you can see if the ambient mics are too loud, it starts to become too much. The band and the vocals become less clearly defined because you're just getting a ton of that room, kind of that short reverb, and it just kind of sounds like the room. But what you want is to be able to just hear the sound of the room, but you still want your direct channels to be the main thing. You still want it to kind of have that recorded CD feel. Okay, cool. So we now have built our basic mix. It sounds really good. The one more thing I want to talk about is kind of where I set things to start. I keep the band DCA here that controls all the band channels at about -5. And then I put my vocals, which controls just the backup vocals. The lead vocal is not on that DCA, but these are. I put those at about +5. So that gives me plenty of headroom. If I really need to crank a vocal for some reason, that'll give me plenty of headroom to be able to do that. So -5 for the band, +5 for the vocals. Right now we're at about -7.5 for the ambient mics, but you'll want to make sure and adjust that to taste. The last thing I want to talk about is our reverb and delay. These should only be on during music. We should not have them on when they're speaking, so kind of stay on top of that while we're going through the service. And you want to kind of adjust this to taste. Again, you don't want it to be so much that it's overpowering. So clearly that's way too much. But you just wanted to kind of give it a little sparkle, a little bit of room to make it sound not so dry. So like without it, it sounds like this. And so, you know, that's okay, but it sounds very nice if you add that on top of it. Okay, that's good. So now we've got our basic mix built out really well. It sounds really nice. So we're going to go ahead and save that as our first song preset. This week, the first song is something. Anyways, you're just going to save it as, you know, the title of the song there. And that'll give you a good starting point. If you have more time, you can go through each of the songs and do a little bit of mixing based on that first mix and save your other presets. If not, you know, just do it as you're going through that first service. But yeah, so now you know how to build a nice, good, balanced, full mix with nothing being too overpowering and everything being as loud or as quiet as it should be. You know where your DCAs should be, you know how to mix in the ambient mics, and you know how to give it some delay and reverb. So there you go. Let me know if you have any questions.